welcome to Chesscape, guys. Today I'm gonna review something that is called the Ryder Gambit. That is something that will help you win against club level players. I'm gonna try to show you a little bit more complete variations so you can really understand it, and if your opponent deviates, you know what to play. That's the most important, because I know what's gonna happen. After watching this, you're gonna try it against your father, against your teacher. In chess, it's not that easy. They're gonna play different moves. You're gonna be disappointed, and you know what happens when you learn something in chess, when you learn a trap. You spend time learning this, and then it didn't work. The guy played another move number 5. You kind of like don't want to play the game anymore, and you end up playing bad moves. It happens a lot. It happened to me when I was young. So let's start. Let's get to it. It's called the Ryder Gambit, and it starts with d4. This is the first move, d4. Black responds playing d5, e4, d take e4, and now knight c3. Knight c3 is targeting to take the pawn back that we just gave. And now black developed their minor piece, which is normal, and defend also the pawn on e4. We decide to give a second pawn, and this is the Ryder Gambit. I just want to say something about this position. I'm pretty sure that the highest rated players will come back on this on Reddit and say that this is not an opening that is sound for white. Kind of agree, but I couldn't find really like clear variations. I don't think that there are clear variations and people know why it's bad. I'm gonna show at the end some variations that I found that white end up with an isolated pawn, for instance, and having maybe like harder endgames. But this is really unclear. It's still unclear. So after the move f3, 60% of people in the database are actually taking on f3. We're gonna analyze this. After queen take f3, now you're saying, okay, the pawn on d4 is attacked. Queen take d4. The whole point of this was to develop our pieces very fast by playing something like bishop e3. Now we're targeting the queen. And also we want to bring the rook in the game, as I show here, very quickly, either by long castling or just playing rook d1. So that's the point. Now black have a move. The main move here is queen b4. Queen b4, I mean, that's not the main move. Most people actually play queen b4. But the best move in this position, let me come back 1 second. The best move is to play queen g4 and try to trade the queens. Play the endgame because black have a pawn up, so it's better for them. That's good for black, that's not ideal, so we're gonna play a move like queen f2 here. We're obviously not gonna trade the queens because we're pawns down. If they play queen b4, now they have a clear threat that is the pawn on b2 that we have to defend. There is one move that comes to our mind, which is castle. You can long castle here, but they had a move in mind. So the move that they have in mind is bishop g4, and now they're skewing the queen and the rook. Think for a second and try to find a move here. Are you losing the game, or you think there is a move that can actually save white position? If I tell you that in this position at move 7, white are totally winning. After the move that I'm about to play, knight b5, black is totally gone here. There is no defense for black. If bishop take the queen, we simply play knight takes c7 and it's checkmate already. That doesn't work. Now let's get back. The other move here is to play a move like e5, because we want the king to have the square on e7, because if knight takes c7 check, now king e7, and he's freeing himself, but it's not that simple again, because look, knight takes e7, attacking the rook and the king, king e7, and now we have the beautiful move, queen take b7. Queen take b7 is amazing. You're telling me, okay, my queen is trapped, okay, but if queen take queen, bishop c5 is another checkmate, game over again. That's the trap, the king doesn't have any square. The last move, that is actually the main move here for black to defend the pawn on c7, is to play knight a6. Knight b5 that we played with white created something, is it intercepted the protection of the queen to the pawn on b7, as you can see here. We can simply take the pawn with our queen, queen take b7. And now we are targeting something. We're targeting knight takes c7 check. Because look at this. If it's my turn to play, I do this. If you take my knight, I take your queen. So this is our threat. Our threat is knight takes c7. If black plays a move like rook b8, try to find a move here. The move is Queen take rook, simply. Knight takes c7 is checkmate. It's another checkmate again. So you see, there are a lot of traps. It's a position that is extremely hard to play for black here. Another move here would be a move like rook c8, for instance. It's defended by the bishop on g4. So we cannot take the rook, but we simply take the knight here on a6, and this is winning. Because if he plays a move like e5, for instance, we simply play a move like a3. a3 is a good move here. The only square for the queen now is queen e7. All the variations are winning. You can just take on a7, attacking the rook on c8. If you play something like rook d8, now you are just simply developing your pieces with a check. I mean, look at the position of black. I mean, the king doesn't have any square around him. All the pieces are at home sleeping. The bishop on g4, yes, is attacking the rook on d1, but you know, that's the reason why we develop another piece again. We play knight f3. And now it's really, really hard to play. If they play a move like queen f6 to try to trade the queens, for instance, we simply play knight c6. And if they do this, I mean, thinking, you know, I'm going to castle, it's not going to be that easy because now I have bishop g5. I'm skewing the queen and the rook. Where do you want to go? If you go queen g6, for instance, I mean, simply like bishop takes rook, is totally winning. Look at the material. I'm pretty sure, I mean, the position here, if you have it, that's totally winning, right? Okay. So this was after knight a6, queen take b7. And now there is the main move here for black is not to play the move e5, but it's to play the move queen e4. The reason for queen e4 is to try to exchange the queen. With black, we're attacking the bishop on e3, we're attacking the queen on b7. Because we're under, usually when you have pressure against you, what you're trying to do is that you're trying to eliminate the pieces, to relieve the pressure in the position and have less pieces on the board. Because especially when you have the king in the center, you can get mated more easily when the queens are on the board. After queen e4, we don't take the queen, obviously, because that would be bad for us because we have less material. We simply take again the knight on a6. And if he takes now on e3, I mean, we play king b1. There is a threat. We are threatening knight takes c7 checkmate. So he has to defend that pawn by playing queen c5. We can play the move simply queen b7. If he goes bishop takes rook, we take his rook. Here, king d7. We have to be super careful because there is a mate that would be queen takes c2 and then queen c1. So what we do is that we bring the knight back, attacking the bishop on d1. I mean, the position is amazing for white. I mean, look at the pieces of black. I mean, the bishop and the rook are still at home, and the pieces are not doing anything. They're not attacking anything. My king is safe. I just have to develop my pieces. It's going to be moves like bishop b5. So if they play a move like this, I develop my pieces and checking your king. If you play a move like c6, it's not going to be that simple. Queen b7 check. You have to go with the king, and I'm just taking everything. Bishop takes c6, and it's just tough. You can propose like this to trade the queens, for instance, but I'm not going to do it. You know, I'm going to keep checking you, and look at this king that is in the middle of the board. Like you play bishop f3, for instance. After queen take a6, what happens on bishop take d1? You can just take on d1. I mean, that's fine. Because if he plays a move like rook d8, I'm protecting my bishop by coming back and I'm covering everything. If he plays a move like knight d5, for instance, I'm still coming back on d2 as well. And this is fine. If he plays a move like e6, now I'm just developing my pieces and I'm fine. Because if he plays rook d8, for instance, I'm just going to play bishop d3 and I just have too many pieces against him, and the king is still in the center. It's not going to be an easy game. Where does he put the queen? If he goes queen g4, for instance, I'm just going queen c6 check. King e7, the bishop is staying at home here, the dark square bishop cannot leave the game. And it's a tough one, just rook e1, and then we keep putting pressure on the king. And yeah, that's the trap I wanted to show you guys today. Now let me go back to the beginning of the position where I told you that after this move, after knight c3, knight f6, f3, people don't necessarily have to accept it, so they can play moves like c6, for instance. If they play this, the idea after f take a4 is to play e5. They are creating a gambit themselves to activate their pieces, basically threaten your center here, because if you take on e5, which is a normal move, they're gonna trade the queens. If you take with the king, they play a move like knight g4. And now they're targeting both. You have to come back with the king and they take on e5, which is not a disaster. So let's just say, if people are playing this variation and not your trap by playing, this variation by taking on f3, queen take d4, I mean, you get this kind of positions. It's not the end of the world, right? You develop your minor pieces, you go on f3, attacking the knight on e5. And this is fine. I mean, it's just normal chess. He's going to develop his minor pieces. You're going to do the same thing. It may be a little bit better for black, yes, because he doesn't have too many weaknesses in his position, especially the pawns, and you have an isolated pawn on e4, which is a problem. But aside from this, it's still a game. So even if the guy doesn't accept basically the gambit and the trap doesn't fall in our trap, you're still playing a game of chess. So you're not losing because of it. So that was the most important thing. This is something I wanted to show you. If we go back again, the best move here on queen take queen is to actually take with the knight. You're giving this pawn on e4, but there is no way that our pawn on e5 is falling. So we're going to play just knight f3. He's going to develop his pieces. You're going to develop yours. Bishop d3, he plays knight c5. You come back on e2. And this is fine. He's going to develop pieces, and you too, knight c3, bishop e3. It's a pretty equal position, actually, if you look at it right now. Because the pawn on e5, yes, it's isolated, but it's controlling nice squares on d6 and f6. It's advanced, it's bothering a little bit black position, where they can't put the bishop on d6, for instance, etc. That was the trap for today, guys, and hope you liked it, and I'll see you on the next one.